Peace, blessings, and mercy of God be upon us all. Here I just want to share with us the limitations of the historical critical method. It's a field called historiography. Many people have often asked me that I should know that the crucifixion of Jesus is the most undeniable historical fact that all historians agree upon. And also, they asked me to give them a historical evidence that Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, ascended to heaven on a flying donkey, or that they can give me historical evidence that Jesus Christ, peace and blessing of God be upon him, indeed rose from the dead. The truth of the matter is, for the resurrection of Jesus and also for the ascension of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon them, there is no historical evidence for both of them. And also, the conclusion that the Jesus Christ must have been crucified is the natural explanation that scholars will come up why a man who lived 2,000 years ago is no longer with us today. So here I'm going to read an article written by Dr. Bart Erhman, an American scholar of the New Testament, so that we can hear his opinion in this matter. So I'll just read from here his article. He says, over the years, I've tried to explain on several occasions why a miracle can never be shown on historical grounds to have happened, even if it did. People today typically think of miracles as supernatural violations of natural law, divine interventions into the natural course of events. Miracles, by definition, are events that contradict the normal workings of nature in such a way as to be virtually beyond belief and to require an acknowledgement that supernatural forces have been at work. He continues, this understanding is itself the major stumbling block for historians who want to talk about miracles. Since the historian has no access to supernatural forces, but only to the public record, that is, to events that can be observed and interpreted by any reasonable person of whatever religious persuasion. If a miracle requires a belief in the supernatural realm, and historians by the very nature of their craft can speak only about events of the natural world, events that are accessible to observers of every kind, how can they ever certify that an event outside the natural order, that is a miracle, indeed occurred? This is from the Erhman blog, more on the historical problems of miracle. And this limitation has also been voiced by another scholar, James D. Don. So they all talked about the limitations of the historical critical method. So let me just give you a perfect example in this case. So as a Nigerian, let's say as someone who is into the field of historiography, we are told to try to reconstruct back to what actually happened that resulted to the death of our former president, the military president, President Sani Abacha. So we want to reconstruct what actually happened. And the first thing we are going to observe as a historian is that we are meeting records that are contradictory, having different narrations about the end of Abacha. So what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to take all of these contradictory reports and try to make sense of them. Which one is the most probable event that would have occurred? And in our reconstruction, we will never think of any supernatural or miraculous intervention that happened before Abacha died. We will never think of that. Even if we are going to think of that, that's going to be the last thing we think of. In other words, after we've exhausted every other natural explanation of the cause of his death, and if there is none, before one can now take something that is extraordinary. But when we are approaching this study, we are just going to look at the records as they say and try to make sense of them. We are not going to assume that on here and so the miracle happened here and the miracle happened there. So this is how historiography works, and this is the reason why from a historical point of view we can never prove that Jesus Christ is resurrected from the dead, because nobody saw him resurrecting from the dead. He was only buried in the tomb, and 3 days later the people came and they saw that his body was nowhere to be found. So therefore an inference was made, he must have resurrected from the dead. So, but no one actually saw him resurrected from the dead. And also for the ascension of the Prophet Muhammad, no one actually saw him ascending towards the heaven. He was actually in his bed at home. So all of this cannot be proven historically because we say it is a miracle. However, on the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, it is very, very straightforward for a historian. Why is Why was a man who lived 2,000 years ago not with us today? Because he died. It's as simple as ABC. So, and if the only cause of his death that was mentioned in the books of record is that he was crucified, then every historian has no objection to reject this. They will definitely accept this report. So, for a historian, yes, Jesus Christ was crucified from a historical critical method. And also from the same historical critical method, we cannot verify that Jesus Christ is resurrected from the dead, and we cannot also verify that the Prophet Muhammad ascended onto the heavens. So this is just a brief reminder. Until next time, may the peace, blessings, and mercy of God be upon us all.